we were playing.
Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. So by the way, guys, testing 1 2 3. Yo, what's up? Welcome back to Vencabot. Intro to Python Season 4 action. My name is David. Yo, it's Season 4. This is a brand new project here for us. Episode 1, you would say, for Intro to Python. The whole point of this show here is to try and teach Python to total beginner programmers, right? People that have never programmed in their lives and who are curious about it. Maybe they're not, trying to be the world's greatest game dev, or they're trying to be, maybe a professional programmer. Maybe they just kind of want to learn to program, maybe see if they're interested in it. And they thought maybe it would be too difficult for them to learn on their own. For one thing, that's not true. Programming is actually pretty easy once you've broken into it. And two, yeah, it's pretty fun. It's very interesting. It's stimulating creatively, and it can be very useful as well. So we're sitting here staring at a blank screen. I'll lower down a little bit of this music, if you can call it that, just there to kind of fill the background noise with something other than silence. So we're staring at a blank screen here, and we're asking ourselves, how do we get started programming? Like, what's the first thing you got to do? Well, there are lots of cool languages out there you can use. Languages that are like programming languages are kind of like spoken languages. They each have their own grammar. They have their own words and their own punctuation and that kind of thing. Every language is a little bit different, but I recommend Python as a first language. And personally, it's my favorite language. Right? I use that for everything. I've been programming for many, many years, and I've learned a lot of languages. And Python's all I use anymore because it is, to me, the best language. But it's also good for beginners because it has a very clear and easy to read grammar for novices. So why don't we install the things we need to get Python working, right? So we have to go here to our browser. I'm going to use Chrome. Go to python.org. Okay, pretty simple site. Here you have downloads, and download Python 3.7.2, or whatever the current version is for you. If you guys are watching on YouTube, it might be something different, right? Go ahead and download whatever is the newest version of Python for you. Click that link. It'll download an executable file, as you can see down here. It'll say python.exe. Run that file on your computer. It'll install two things, essentially. It'll install Python, which is a program that will run Python programs. And then it also has a program called idle that comes with it, which is like a text editor, kind of like Notepad. Kind of cool. Very simple to install. Once you have that all installed, why don't you just go to your desktop here on Windows or whatever OS you're using. I'm going to be doing like a Windows tutorial for now. And then you're going to right-click here and make a new folder. Right, new folder. I'm going to call mine Intro to Python Season 4. You can call it whatever you want. That's what I'm calling mine. There you go. So this is a folder we're going to keep all of our stuff for this project. So here goes in the chats. We're talking about the possibility of doing like a chill stream on Wednesdays in the future. I just remembered that one time you did that unannounced stream where you programmed and how dope it was. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. But again, that was a little more laid back. I'm kind of really behind right now on this programming I have to do. I really want to knock it out. If I were to go at that same pace, I'd be having, no Wednesday content for, multiple months. I really want to, for 4 days, hardcore program and just get it done. Anyways, we have this empty folder here on our desktop, right? Intro to Python Season 4. Why don't we right-click in here and make a new text document. So basically, any program that anybody writes in any language is going to start off as a text document, believe it or not. So it's kind of like, again, Python and any programming language is like a spoken language. It's got grammar, it's got punctuation, words, spaces in there between the words. It's very much like a spoken language, like English or Spanish or Japanese or whatever. So you kind of type it out on the keyboard. I know that sounds obvious, but I think some of the newbies might not realize just how simple it is to write a program. So let's go to text document here and make a new text document. We're going to call this thing, I'm going to call it virtual pet day 1.py. There you go. It's going to give me a warning saying if you change the file name extension, that's the part after the dot, it was .txt before, the file might become unusable. Are you sure you want to change it? Go ahead and click yes here. If you guys are novices, you might not realize that files extension, there's the part of the name after the dot. I'm not sure you're going to be able to see it on Windows if you don't have this setting set here. What is this? Show, hide. Right here, yeah. If you go to View and then Show, Hide, you're going to see file name extensions. You want to check that box on your OS. That'll let you see these file name extensions. And they're kind of cool because if you change the file name extension, if I were to read them to .text, it can change the file type essentially. Right now it's a text file like Notepad. If I change it to .png or let's say a .jpeg, right, Windows thinks it's an image now. So you can kind of change what kind of file Windows thinks that your file is by renaming it with that extension. Anyway, we're going to call it .py, it means a Python file. There you go. Okay, so now if I were to right-click this and open in Notepad, we have an empty Notepad file, right? You've probably seen this 100 times before if you're on Windows. So very, very simple type stuff. Okay, so we have basically a blank slate in front of us to write our very first program, but we don't know anything about Python, right? We don't know the first word in the Python language. So let's just start typing. Before we even get started, though, I want to point out that in any programming language, you feed instructions to your program on a line-by-line basis, right? So if I were to say, instruction 1, I'm going to say, do this thing, enter, then do this thing, enter, finally do this thing, right? So for every line in a programming language, it's basically one whole instruction. Do this, then do this, then do this. Kind of think of it like driving instructions, right? Like, you turn, left on MLK, then go straight on Cedar Street, right? All this stuff, right? So basically it's kind of like, line-by-line instructions for your program. So I'm going to teach you guys some very simple Python commands, basically. Let's knock it out, guys. We're going to make our very first program here in just a couple lines. We're going to say here, print hello. See those parentheses there? We're going to say, username equals input. Then we're going to print off hello plus username. I'm going to say here, hello. I'm going to print again. I'm going to do one more print here. I'll do it right here. I'll say, what's your name? Okay. We're going to file and save this. This is our first program ever. Right. Kind of cool. So it's 3 lines. And like I mentioned before, Python, like any language, like any spoken language, has a syntax, a grammar. You can see we have various words here that mean certain things in Python, and certain punctuation marks like equals and these parentheses here. We got a plus sign in there somewhere. So before we talk about why it works or how it works, let's go run it. Let's go up here to our Start menu. This little Start button right here on Windows. Click that, and type in CMD. This is the Windows command prompt. This is where you can run basically textual programs like the ones we're running in Python. Go and click on that. Okay, so it starts off here, and we're in this black screen with a little blinking cursor there for us to type in something for it to tell Windows to do. Okay, well, it says right now we're in C users Venka. Okay, let me go up here to my File Explorer and go to my computer, this PC. Okay, it says we're in C, so there's C. Okay, and then users, there's users. And then we're in Venka. There's Venka. So that's where I am. I'm not sure where you are. You're probably in C users and then some other, whatever your name is. There's Venka. I'm going to click on that. Okay. So I want to get to my Python file somehow. So our Python file is on the desktop, right? On that folder we made. So where's the desktop at? Well, here's the desktop. Okay. And then here's IntroPython Season 4. All right. And there's our Python file. Okay. So let me go back and back and back. C users Venka, then desktop. Okay, so if I use the cd command here on the command prompt, cd means change directory, change your folder. So cd, I want to go to desktop from here. Okay, so now I'm in desktop, cool. And then I want to go to Intro to Python Season 4 from here, right? Let me go double check that. Okay, desktop, right there. I want to go to this folder now. Intro to Python Season 4. CD, change directory, Intro to Python Season 4. You're going to use whatever name you named your folder. Okay, so now I'm on this in this folder that I want to be in, right? So if I type in dir now, that will show my directory. And you see we have one file in here, Virtual Pet Day 1. Okay, cool. We edited it at 7:02 p.m. That was a couple minutes ago. Awesome. So now we're in the same folder as our Python script, our Python program. That's cool. Let's run it using the py command. Py space virtual pet day1.py. So this py command here was installed when we installed Python. So now we can run this py command from the command prompt and then to a space and then type in the name of a Python program. And it'll run that program for us. So I type in the entire file name, including the .py extension. So py is the program, then a space, and then feed that program our script, virtualpetday1.py. If you guys are having trouble keeping up, go back. If you guys on YouTube, go ahead and rewind the video and rewatch. If you guys have questions here on Twitch, let me know. Boom. Hit enter. Boom. Okay. It says, hello, what's your name? David. Hello, David. Now the program ends. We're back here on the command prompt. Cool. So it was a 3-line program, right? It prints off, hello, what's your name? You see that right here. Hey, what's up, Zanzu? Was that the command? Roar? It was T-Rex, right? The old T-Rex command. I think it was Trex, actually. How you doing, Zanzu? There we go. Hey, what's up, KO? So KO joined us last night for Smash Brothers. We're doing like a little tutorial stream here. Ride 'em! Zanzu and K-Rex, remember, and only those two. So we have a situation happening here. Right? We print off, hello, what's your name? And it works right here. That's what it shows on the screen. Then it asks us for our username. We entered that right there. And then it prints off, hello, and then our username. Okay, so now that we have our first program ever, let's talk about how it works. So every program, I'm going to make some notes here. Let's make another document here called notes. We can write some stuff down. I might go back to our Intro Python Season 4, make some notes. How you doing, KO? Hope you're doing okay as well, Zanzu. Zanzu, I heard there's going to be a big 3S tournament in Helsinki. You should go and body those guys with your Makoto. Alright, so I'm going to call this, Python notes.text. Okay, make some notes here. I don't think I want to use this, I want to use Notepad. Right click, open Notepad. For you guys. Okay. So let's make some notes here. So basically, we wrote our first ever program. And it's only 3 lines long. But this is actually word wrapped. Here it is, yeah. It's already interactive, right? It asks us for our name, and then it greets us. Kind of cool. Let's go look at that again while I cough. Sorry, guys, I feel kind of weird today. So let's go over here and look at our program. 3 lines. Print, hello, what's your name? Username equals input. Print, hello plus username. Let's go look at how that ran one more time. Okay. Hello, what's your name? I punched in David. Hello, David. I'm going to try this again, right? Run the code again. If I hit up on the arrow keys, it gives me my last command I typed in. Enter. What's your name? I'm going to be Zanzu this time. I'm a man of many faces and many names. It says, hello, Zanzu. Okay. Kind of cool. So, I'm going to go over here to our notes and say, before we get too in-depth with exactly, how to write Python grammar, or syntax, it's called, right? Or syntax, as it's commonly called. Let's talk about the 2 things that every program needs, and every programmer, even beginners, needs to think about. Right? So every program has data and operations. So you gotta kind of keep in mind, right? You have data, you have operations. Basically, operations, are the things that your program does. In this case, our operations involve asking the user what their name is, saving their response, and then greeting them. Right. The data is the information that your program needs to get its job done. Right. So operations are the job that your program does, and data is the information that it uses to get there. Right. Let's go look at our program again. Let's talk about data and operations in these 3 lines that we have. So print is an operation, right? It's putting some data on the screen. Yeah, Helsinki, Finland. Kind of cool. I forget what it's called. I saw it on Twitter today. I retweeted it, I think. If you look below the stream, you'll see the big Twitter app down there. You see what I retweeted recently. Anyway, so we have print is a operation, right? And it's called a function. And it's putting data on the screen. So the data here is, hello, what's your name? Right. So this is the operation, print. This is the data. Hello, what's your name? Every program has both these things, right? Yeah, it has to in order to actually work. Okay, so on the next line, our operation is input. Input commands Python to take some input from the user, right? It waits for you to type in something. And then the data is whatever you typed in. And that's being saved to this name, username here, right? So this equal sign here is called the assignment operator. It's an operation here. It says whatever you punched in for the input, save it to this name, username. We can call it whatever we call it, whatever we want, basically. It doesn't really matter, right? It doesn't matter what we call this, as long as we use the same name down here. We can rename data at will in Python or any programming language. We just rename it whatever we want, whatever makes sense to us. And finally, we have one more print statement down here, and it has the data hello plus, there's another operation, right? We're adding things together. Plus, whatever we want, it doesn't matter. Whatever we typed in here for our input, right? So it's kind of like, we have the operations, print, assign, right? Assigning a name there. Input is an operation. And then one more print. Also, we have plus. And our data is this textual string. Hello, what's your name? String is a fancy way to say text in programming. You say string, you're talking about text. Hello, what's your name? Then we have this string here that we got back from input, whatever we typed in. Our name, Zanzu or David or whatever. That gets saved there. Then we have two strings here. Hello, plus, then whatever we typed in, right? Whatever we typed in there goes into this name. Let's run this program one more time here. So I'm going to be a KEO this time. It says hello KEO, right? So it prints off a very simple statement. Hello, what's your name? Then it waits for input. And then once we get to input, it saves that input and then reuses that input to greet us with. Kind of a cool first program there. Very simple. So we talked about operations and data, but what is with this syntax? What is with this grammar? How does this all work? Well, basically, Python has these things called functions. Go over here and talk more in our notes. Right. So a common type of operation in Python is to run a function. I'm going to say call a function, right? It means to make it run. A function is a word, basically, that commands a Python to run some code internally to do something. Print is a function, and input is a function. Right? When you call print, it puts some data on the screen, and when you call input, it makes Python wait for the user to type something in and press enter. And then if you want, you can save whatever the user typed into a name of your choice. Right. Cool beans. Quite simple. All right, so we have two kinds of functions we know of right now. We have print functions and input functions. Awesome. And when you call a function, to make it run, you do so by adding a pair of parentheses. At the end, I say parentheses, right? At the end of the function name. So we go over here to our input function, right? You can see I called it like that. So input is the name of the function. We name the function input, right? And that comes out. And then in order to actually run the function, we have to do this. That will now call that function. So if you think about how in English, you have to capitalize the first letter of a sentence, and after a comma, you put a space. In Python, you also have grammar rules and syntax. And when you call a function, you put parentheses after the function name. Okay. Let's delete all this code here real quick. And let's use some very simple functions. I'm going to say here, print, this is our first time talking about functions. Print, it's not as complicated as it looks at first. print no data in there. Print, if you call the print function without any data between the parentheses, it's kind of confusing. Let's say if you call it a print function, without any data, you get a blank line, right? I don't want this to be on 2 lines. It's kind of confusing because there's no line numbering here. How about just call the print function? So call print without any data, and you'll get a blank line. How about that? Just to keep it on 1 line here. Right. We'll do it a couple times here. We'll say, print, just like that. See, pretty basic. Let's run this program again now. So let's save our program. Go here to our command prompt and type in py, and the name of our file, virtualpetday1.py. Okay, says this is not. This is our first time talking about functions. It's not as complicated as it looks at first. Then a blank line. Call print without any data. You'll get a blank line. Blank line, blank line, blank line, just like that. See, so if you call print without any data here between your parentheses, it just comes out as a blank line, right? But you put in some strings in here, you'll see that string. Kind of cool. So when I say string, what am I talking about? We mentioned earlier, very briefly, that every program has data and operations, but there are many kinds of data. Let's go here to our notes real quick. Right. I'm going to make some blank lines here so I can scroll down a little further. So, we talked about how every program consists of data, which is information, and the operations that make use of that information. Right. Just like there are many kinds of operations, like functions and, mathematical operators like plus, assignment operators that can save data to a name, like equals. There are also many kinds of data. Today, on our first episode of Intro to Python, we're only going to be looking at 3 types of data. Although there are countless types. We'll be looking at strings, which is just a fancy way of saying, text. We'll be looking at integers, which are whole numbers, for doing simple math. We'll be looking at booleans, which is a funny word that means a simple true or false value, which computers love. It's like crack to these things. Okay, so we have 3 kinds of data at our disposal right now, right? Strings, integers, and booleans. Here goes says straight boolean on Mars. Straight boolean, dude. Yeah, the booleans, also called bools, right? Booleans are also called bools, and integers are also called ints, and strings are also called str. What's up, Abmi? He says str is a container. Is it a container? I don't know. I don't think Python has a character data type. Int is a numeric. Okay. Welcome aboard, Abmi. Okay, cool. So we have strings, integers, and booleans we're going to be talking about today. So let's go look at some strings. We've already done a whole bunch of strings, right? So textual strings in Python and pretty much most languages, you can tell they're a string because they have these quotation marks on either side. That's how you know it's a string, right? So although print is a word in English and input is a word in English, these are not strings, they're function names, right? And likewise, we typed in our own, I'm going to say like, some data equals, here's a string for you, right? Some data is not, this is just a name of a variable, right? That's not actually a string. However, it represents a string because this is a string right here. It has these quotation marks, so you know. So basically, Python has its own syntax, its own grammar, like any language. But when you use these strings, you put these quotation marks here on either side, you can type in actual, English or whatever other kind of language you want to type in there, Spanish or whatever. You can put in some real words. What's up, Parse? It says, yo, 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 what's up, Python Jesus? Yo, what's up, homeboy? Not sure we've met. I'm David. Okay, so basically we have, these strings. We've been using a lot of those lately. But we've used no other data types so far, only strings. That's cool. Why don't we try another data type? Let's go delete all this shit. Fuck it. And then print off, let's do some simple math before we get started, with something cooler, right? Let's do some math here. Pretty basic type stuff. Glad you're enjoying it, Parse. I stream Intro to Python here every Friday for a little while, among other stuff on this channel. Okay, so let's, print off, how about like 2 plus 3? Pretty simple. Let's save this and run it. All right, so let's do some math. Okay, then we get a 5. Makes sense, right? We have 2 plus 3, that equals 5, I think. I'm not super educated, but I believe that's 5. So what's happening here? Well, we printed off a string first, and as you guys know, print puts data on the screen. And then we printed off some kind of number, which is the result itself of an operation. All right, so we've got a lot of stuff going on here. This one line here is actually pretty interesting. Print 2 plus 3. So inside of the the print call, we've done another operation. We're doing an addition operation here between two numbers. So it's printing off the result, basically, right? We can also do something like this. We can say here, whatever we wanna call the sum equals 2 plus 3, right? You probably want to put spaces in there. It's a little bit neater, a little easier to read, right? You could type it like this too. 2 plus 3. It's kind of a bad habit though. Just put spaces to make it a little easier to read. All right, so we're gonna print this off now. Whatever we wanna call the sum, or you could just call it sum. It makes more sense, right? Our sum. How about that? I saw the sum. I opened up my eyes. I saw the sum. Run it. Works the same way, right? Still puts off 5 because here we're just saving the result of 2 plus 3 to a name, our sum. They're printing off that name. If I were to change this to 4 plus 3 and save it, then run it again, it'd print off 7 right there. Same diff. So now we've got 2 kinds of data, right? We have our string up here, which is like text. Then we have our numbers down here, our integers, 4 plus 3. There's other kinds of numbers. We also have in Python you have floats. We're talking about integers today though, just whole numbers. All right, so we're using a addition operation on these 2 integers and saving the result into this name using the assignment operator or the equal sign. Very simple. 2 minus 4j, huh? Not sure what Obby's trying to convey to me here. Welcome aboard, Obby. I'm David. You've been in the chat for a minute, being very mysterious. Okay, so we've used strings now for the first time ever, and we've used some integers here, but we haven't really done anything interesting with them yet. Yeah, Kenny says he wants to print off 2 plus 3. Oh my God, Kenny. Let's try his example there. All right, we're gonna print off 2 plus 3. All right, it's gonna equal 5, right? Kenny's a pretty smart guy. He wouldn't lead us astray. No, that guy's talking about complex numbers. Odd me in the chat here. We're talking about very simple numbers though here on our first day. Let's run it. It's gonna equal 5, I think, right? Whoa, wait a minute. That didn't print out 5. Print off 23. Since when is 2 plus 3 23? Something's gonna be wrong here, right? Well, what Kenny's trying to point out to us here, Kenny's a longtime friend of mine. He's pointing out that if we make these numbers into strings, they get added together differently, right? If I were to add in, let's say I want to print off, this is plus some text, right? And then save this and run it. It prints off this is some text, right? Because when you add together text, it doesn't add them numerically. It doesn't add them like numbers. It adds them like together. It squishes them together, basically. Right? So this plus operator here can mean different things based on what kind of data you're adding. If we're adding strings together, it just combines them. However, we're adding numbers together, such as 2 and 3, it shows the actual number result, right? The actual mathematical result, which is 5. But again, if we put these quotation marks around the 2 and the 3, we're not talking about the numbers anymore, right? It might look like the numbers still, but now it's actually text, right? It's not talking about the numbers 2 and 3, it's talking about the characters 2 and 3, right? As you might see them on a screen. So we can add them together, it gets 23, right? There you go. That's what Kenny's trying to point out to us there. Kind of interesting to think about. So if you want to do math, you want to use actual numbers. And if you want to use, text, you use the quotation marks around it to make it into a string. And something I want to point out is that you cannot add strings and numbers together because it'll confuse the plus sign. The plus sign is kind of confused when you try and add two different kinds of data together that aren't compatible with each other. So let's say I want to do this, right? I want to say, number of apples equals 3. Then I want to print off we have plus number of apples plus apples, right? So it should say we have 3 apples, right? But the problem is you cannot add a number like 3 to a string, such as we have and apples. Right, let's run this code right now. We'll see what happens. Probably crash the program, you'd think, right? Oh shit, it did. It says we have a type error. Can only concatenate, which is a fancy way to say add, strings, not integers, to strings. Right? So we can't add this 3 to this string. Now I could get rid of the 3. Like that. Now we only have strings, right? Those will add together just fine. We have apples, it says. We know that much. We know we have apples. Right? Because we can add these together just fine. They're both strings. But to add a number in there, like 3, it's no good. It won't work. Okay, so how are we going to say this, right? Well, we talked before about how we have the print function. And we have the input function as well, we know of. Right. We also have a function called str. And that will convert, I won't say convert, but it will kind of give you a version of the data in here that's a string version of it. Okay. So I typed in str3. We can add that now, because now it's not just a number. Now we're getting a string back. That's actually a string now. Let's save this. We have 3 apples, it says, right? So I can actually string this variable, number of apples. Right. Cool beans, pretty simple. So now we talked about how you can't, you can add strings together and it squishes them together. You can add numbers together and they get added up mathematically. And now we can actually add numbers to strings if we can, get that string version of them using this str function, right? If we were to take away this function again, you guys know what happens, right? It crashes the program because you cannot add numbers to strings. Right? That crashes the program. Right? Can only add strings to strings. However, if we convert it temporarily, kind of get a copy of it that's a string, and use that instead, we can actually add them together. Kind of cool. Awesome. So now we've got apples, we've got a bunch of, printed data on the screen. We've talked about how, programs execute from top to bottom. We save the value here. Right? We save 3 under this name, number of apples. And then we use that value here. We go down line by line. Right? Just make sure we all understand that. We're going to print off, every line is executed in order. Print, this line gets printed after the previous line. We're going to do, our sum equals 2 plus 3. Print off, by the time this gets shown on screen, we'll have done math above, right? You get the idea, right? And print off, the result of that math is, the string version of our sum. Print, this line is the last thing that happens in the program. Right, there you go. So we've got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines of code now, and each one is done in order, right? It'll print off this line, and then it'll do this thing. Then it does this thing, it saves that data to our sum. Then it prints off this thing, Then it prints off this thing. It does it in order of top to bottom, basically. Let's run this code. There you go, right? Cool beans. What's up, Juna? Do you not need NR? Python is fancy. Well, I think that it works the same way in most languages, right, Juna? Said print is not like write. Print will always, in any language, will do a new line. But Juna's saying here is that, you can use these characters /n and /r in a string to make new lines in the middle of a string. We're using the print command, though, which doesn't really require those. I'm not going to worry too much about that. How you doing, Juna? Hope you're having a good day today so far. Okay, so we're we're looking pretty good right now. Right, for being our first day. For being our first day learning Python, we can already do some pretty crazy stuff. Right? We can show text on the screen. We can do simple math. And that's all that we need to really get our first virtual pet up and running. Right? Let's make a simple game finally. You guys have waited long enough to start making games, right? Let's go here to our virtual pet day 1. And why don't we, first of all, we gotta save our pet's name, right? Let's print off, what is your pet's name? So how are we gonna save this? We're gonna use the input command, right? We're gonna say here, pet's name equals input, right? So ask the user what a pet's name is, and then get the input from the user. They'll press enter, but we're gonna carry on for that, right? And we'll say, what type of animal is your pet? Right. We're going to say, animal, we'll say pet type, right, equals input. We're going to save another input, right, save them as a pet type. Then we're going to print off, finally, pet's name plus the plus pet type plus is a good boy, right, or a girl. Well, we have to gender too, right? We can print off, what sex is your animal, so we know what kind of we'll say is your pet a boy or girl, right? And save that as pet sex equals input. So we can say is a good plus pet sex. I love pet sex. That's why I had to get that card. Glad you're enjoying it, Juna. So I like this game. It's a very simple game, right? Very simple game. All right, so right now we're printing off what's your pet's name, then getting some input from the user and saving it under a name. We're calling this name pet's name. Then we're asking him what kind of animal it is. We're saving that to under the name pet type, using the assignment operator again. Then ask if it's a boy or a girl, and saving that as pet sex. We're choosing all these names ourselves, of course. Then finally printing off one statement here that uses all 3 of our data types, right? Our pet's name, our pet type, and our pet sex. And they're all strings, right? Input always returns a string. So we can add this together, no problem. Let's run it and save it and all that good stuff. Oh, fuck. Well, I missed a quotation mark there. It says here, end of line while scanning a string literal. So it says here that we have a problem with which one of these statements here? Right here. Is your pet a boy or a girl? There should be a quotation mark right here, right, to end the string. There we go. Syntax error, aka a problem with our grammar, right? Bad grammar for Python. At pet or girl, you are missing a quotation. Oh, thank you, Professor Q. Q has my back. There you go. What's your pet's name? We'll call him, the Chief. That's the most godlike pet name of all time. What kind of animal is it, huh? It's a pug, obviously. And is it a boy or girl? This is going to be a boy in this case. The Chief, the pug, is a good boy. Right. Very simple game. There you go. Game over, guys. Well done. We've accomplished an impossible task today and completed the game. We also name him, Spot. Well, we'll say, this is going to be like a lab. And this one will be a girl. Right. Spot the lab is a good girl. Right. Very, very basic program right now. What if we gave it a name like 8? Let's find out. So basically what Matt Uppy is saying here is that, we cannot add numbers to strings, right? We can't add numbers to strings. So if I type in a number, would it crash the program? Let's find out. I'll explain why it does or doesn't, but it's done. So pet name would be 8, right? We're going to name the pet 8. Why do you think it's not going to crash, Q? Why do you think that? Because numbers can't be added to strings, right? We're going to make this one into like a raccoon. 8 the raccoon. Good name for a raccoon, I guess. And this one's going to be a badass. It's not a boy or a girl. It's just a badass in general. It says 8 the raccoon is a good badass. Didn't crash. Obmi has an idea why it worked. Right? But we talked before about how if we were to print off 2 plus 3, it doesn't crash, right? Exactly, Q. Exactly. Right? We'll say blah blah blue. Blah the bleh is a good blue. It says 23 here, right? It says 23 because although these are numbers, we're using them as strings, right? We're using them as strings. So we don't get 5, we get 23. And what Obmi is saying is that input always returns a string. So if we typed in the name 8, we don't get 8 back, right? We get 8 back. You know what I mean? So it adds just fine. It goes to the string just fine because input always returns a string. If you type in a number, it's whatever. It still returns a string. Right? So Obmi is right. Q is perfectly right. Good question, Matt Appleby. Very good question, though. So here's another question that probably Matt Appleby's thinking right now, right? I know Matt. He's a pretty smart guy. He's thinking, okay, but what if I want to say, something like this, right? How about we say print, how old is plus pet's name plus question mark, right? How old is so-and-so? We're going to get an input from the user, right? And what do you want to say, print, next year, they'll be plus, plus what? Plus, we have to save the input, right? Let's save the input here as pet's age equals, right? Get some extra S's in here to make things a little more uniform. Okay, so we have pet's age. We're going to say here, pet's age plus 1. It's not going to work, right? Because we can't do math. We're gonna get a string back here. We can't do math on it. Right? So we're gonna have Matt Appleby, and they're going to be a unicorn, and they're going to be a boy. Okay, so Matt Appleby the unicorn is a good boy. How old is Matt Appleby? I don't know, are we talking about unicorn years or human years? Probably 6. Okay, so we can't add integers to strings. Right, so what if I want to do math on something that they typed in? Well, we learned earlier that if I have a number, I can convert it to a string, right? Temporarily. I can get a copy of it back that's a string, right? If I want to say, let's say that I want to say, we did the apples thing before, right? Let's actually delete all this. We had that apples thing before where we said, number of apples equals 3. We want to print off, we have, plus number of apples plus apples, right? We did this example a few minutes ago, and it's going to crash, right? We can't add 3 to these strings, right? It's a crash right there. Can't concatenate strings and integers, whatever. If we use this function right now, str. Okay, pretty good guess, man. I'm going to go through that guess in a second here. If we use str, we can use this integer as a string, right? It gives us a string copy of it back. So this will take the number 3 and give us back a 3 to use as a string, right? That'll work. We can do the same thing the other way around too. Let's say that I have, an integer, a string we'll say number of apples, as a string is 3, right? Well, now I can add that in there just fine, but I can't do math on it yet. I can't do math on it, right? So that kind of sucks. But what we can do is we can actually convert strings to integers. We can get a copy of them back anyway, using the int function. So we have the str function. We'll take, some number and give us a string back. But we can also use int and take some string and get an integer back, right? Exactly, Matt Appleby. Exactly. So let's run this code again. So we're going to say here, print off, how old is your pet? And we're going to say here, pet's age equals input. So we're going to have them type in something. We're going to say here, print off, next year, your pet will be plus an integer version of pet's age plus 1. No, say no, pet's age, right? Plus 1. Plus years old. Is that going to work, guys? Or is that going to crash? Probably going to crash, you would think, right? Why do you think that is? Let's run it and find out. See, we were close. We were close. Right, exactly, Juna says, no, not the age, no! We were close, right? So, we actually took this string, pet's age, and then used it as an integer to do some math on it. But this here returns an integer anyway. We can't add instant strings yet. So let's go here and say, next year age equals the integer version of pet's name, because it's a string right now, plus 1, right? Now we're going to save that as a string too. We're going to do the str of next year age. We have a lot of data types being converted around, right? Exactly, Matt Appleby, exactly. Matt Appleby's too quick. Right, it's kind of long though. Right. Cool. Let's save it. Gotta play the shuffle game. Let's see, so now they're gonna be 8. They're gonna be, oh, I'm sorry. Pet's name's not defined. I mean pet's age, not pet's name. You goofball. So right there it said there that the name pet's name is not defined. So I was trying to use this variable pet's name before I made a pet's name, right? I had a pet's age, not a pet's name. There, that should fix our code right there. Let's save it and run it. They're 8. They're gonna be 9 next year, right? So it's kind of like Matt Appleby said. We had to convert the, I shouldn't say convert's a bad word. We're going to make a copy of our pet's age as an integer, because it was a string, and then use that to do some math on it, plus 1. So we're going to make a copy of this integer, new year age is an integer. We're going to make a copy of that as a string and use that here, right? Pet will be, the string 9, not the number 9. We're not doing math on it. Now we're going to print it with a string, so it's got to be a string itself. Kind of confusing, I know, guys. Basically, you got to consider what type of data you're working with. We know about strings, which is text, and integers, which can do math, right? Kind of what we know about so far. And for our virtual pet game, we're going to need both, right? We're going to need, in most games, we're going to need to have strings and integers to sort of, show the user some data as a string, but also do math behind the scenes to make the game work, right? So back to our, little virtual game here, our virtual pet. We're going to say, what's your pet's name? Right, we're going to say here, pet's name equals input. We're going to say down here, print, what kind of animal is plus pet's name plus a question mark. We'll say pet's type equals input. Then we'll say here, print off, is plus, your pet's name plus, a boy or a girl. And we're going to say, pet's sex is input. Finally, we're going to say here, print off, pet's name plus the plus pet's type plus is a good, plus pet's sex. Very basic. Very basic, right? So I'm just going to get this program working again the way it was before. Awesome. Pet's name, we'll call them, dicks. Animals, dicks. Going to be probably like a Siamese. Dix is definitely a princess. So Dix to Siamese is a good princess, right? So it's kind of very simple little program right now, but we can make it more interesting by adding in some actual gameplay here. So why don't we say here, we have this whole shebang at the start of our program, right? Let's go down here a few more lines. So basically in Python, blank lines are meaningless. They're there for us to kind of break our code up visually. As you can see here, I broke up our code a little more visually by having a question, then an input. Right? Then a question, then an input. So I could just have these blank lines go away. It means the same thing in Python, right? It's all the same. But it's easier for me to read as a programmer if I put some blank lines in there, so I'm going to do that anyway. The blank lines don't hurt Python at all. I fucked it up, I think. I want it like this. There we go. So we have a question and answer, question and answer, question and answer now. No, it's not a pet dating. I could decide against the pet dating sim idea, or the dating sim idea, because I don't really play a lot of dating sims. I don't know how to make one. I don't know how to do any research. I have a variety of ideas. I had a variety of ideas for like a genre for this project, but I figured this would be the easiest to kind of convey to beginners. A simple little virtual pet. Okay, so we have this pet we're saving now. We have all this data about the pet. We have the name, the type, and the sex of the pet. Now we're going to say here, pet's happiness. Let's go, Q, bestiality. Let's go. Everybody loves bestiality. We're going to make this 100. Maximum happiness for this pet, right? Sweet. Now we're going to say here, print off, what kind of food do you want to give, plus pet's name, and then a question mark. Okay. Give input. We're going to say here, pet's food equals input. Right. So a lot of questions and answers. Question and answer. Question and answer. Right. But now this pet's happiness value. Right here we're defining it. So we're saving our first integer here. Starts off at 100. Okay. We'll make this. We'll start it off at like 50. We'll put them in the middle. Right. So we're going to say here, if pet's food equals pizza, then we're going to say here, pet's happiness, equals, pet's happiness plus 20. Right. Then we'll say here, if pet's food equals, what's a really bad food to eat, guys? Really, really bad food to eat. Mushrooms are really bad. We'll say here, pet's happiness. Cocaine is pretty bad. Right, that's pretty bad for a pet. Let's do that. Don't feed your pet cocaine. That's not good for you. We'll say here, pet's happiness gets subtracted by, 20. Right? Then we'll say here, print off pet's name plus pet's type plus is at plus, lots of pluses, right? The string version of pet's happiness plus, happiness. Very simple. Give it this word wrapping here. So we have a very long line there. Right. So let's save this. All right. So let's run our code now. We're going to call this pet K. Reich Jr. He's a dog. Boy. Yeah, he's a good boy. I want to give him pizza. Okay, so now it says K. Reich the dog was at 70 happiness. Right, so let's look at how this works just now. What just happened? Let's try cocaine too. We'll do K. Reich Jr. He's also a dog. This one's going to be a girl K. Reich though. We're going to give him cocaine. Cocaine. That's at 30 happiness. He's like, woof. He's at 30 happiness now, right? So basically, we have a little bit of gameplay now, basically. What we're doing here is we're having the user type in what kind of food they want to give, K. Reich, or whatever pet we have. And we're saving that value as pet's food. It's a string, right? And then we're saying here, if the user typed in pizza, right? If pet's food equals. So before we've been using equals, right? Equals was there, equals is here, equals is here. That's the assignment operator. That will take the data on the right and save it to the name on the left. We know that, right? We learned that by now. But equals is different. Equals means is equivalent to. Is equivalent to, is equal to. And that means we're saying, if pet's food is equal to the string pizza, then we're saying here that pet's happiness, this value right here, right? We're making a new value called pet's happiness. We're saying is equal to whatever it was, plus 20. So we're kind of updating this value, but we're kind of updating it. Right? Pet's happiness equals whatever it was plus 20. Right? So it was 50. We're adding 20 to it. If pet's food was equal to cocaine, though, then we're saying here that pet's happiness is equal to whatever it was minus 20. And finally, we're reporting, what the new value is, right? So-and-so's, so-and-so the so-and-so is at some amount, of happiness. Okay, the dog is at 30 happiness. He's at 70 happiness, right? So now we have this number that we're changing based on the user's input. And we're going to be using some new kind of data for that, right? Some new kinds of Python for that. We have this if statement here. We haven't used this before. If. Lots going on here, right? There's lots going on here we haven't looked at yet. Was there pineapple on there? I don't know. Do you want there to be? I don't know. I like pineapple on my pizza. That'd raise mine even more. Don says, give something worse like nicotine or caffeine, huh? Cocaine's a low-tier drug. We'll change this to, caffeine. Kenny can't stand caffeine. Pizza equals pizza. True or false? Yeah, that would be false. That would be false. Kenny's trying to say here that, we're talking about equivalency for strings. It has to be the exact same string. If you have a letter capitalized, it doesn't work anymore. You can try it right now. Well, let's not do that quite yet, actually. So we're talking about, what's new going on here? Well, we know how this all works by now. We know about printing, getting input, and saving data using this assignment operator. That's all quite simple for us. We know about adding strings together. That's cool. Makes our program a bit more interactive. Always a pleasure. We know about adding numbers together. That's pretty simple. But what is going on with these lines? These lines are kind of more involved. There's a lot of stuff here going on here we haven't looked at yet. Well, let's talk real quick about Booleans. Right, a Boolean. Now, a Boolean is a true or false value. And they're used in Python for what are called logic trees, right? That is to say, it makes the program make a decision for you based on whether a certain statement is true or false. Right? So here we're saying here, if pet's food is equivalent to pizza, this is a Boolean, right? Is this true or is this false? If it's true, it will run this code, right? If it's false, it doesn't do nothing. Right? So this will only get run if it's true. So this here comes out as a Boolean. If pet's food is equivalent to pizza. If they typed in pizza, then do this thing. If they typed in caffeine, then do this thing. Right? Now, because Python, every command goes in its own line. We have a line, blank line, blank line. Right? Every command goes in order, top to bottom. The only way we know to only do this, if this is true, is because that line starts with 4 spaces. See these spaces here? 1, 2, 3, 4. We talked before about how English has syntax, right? In English, you have to have a space between words. Again, the first letter of a sentence is capitalized, ends in a period, that kind of thing, right? In Python, if you have what's called a code block, which is code that only runs conditionally, you indent it by 4 spaces. That's kind of how you know, that it's a part of this code block. So this is a code block right here. And this is a code block right here. So code blocks will always start with a line that ends in a colon. See that colon right here? And then every piece of code in that code block will be indented by 4 spaces. Because this line here is not indented, see that? There's no indentation here, right? That's how we know that it's not inside that same code block. If this were like this, for instance, right? Now this is all one big code block. Right? Because it's indented. However, we unindent this, like so, we can see that this code block ends right here, right? This code block's only 1 line long because after that point, it stops indenting. That's how we know when code blocks begin and end. They always begin with a line that ends in a colon, and then they run until we stop indenting, right? So we have 1 code block here and 1 code block here, and this code block ends right here because we stop indenting, right? So only this line will run if, the pet's food is caffeine, right? Only this line will run if it's pizza. And then we keep on going down the line, right? So up to this point, all of our lines have always run in order, right? We always run from top to bottom, right? All these lines ran top to bottom, no problem. Very simple. However, now we're getting into some code here that will only run conditionally. And that's what's really powerful about programming, right? I mean, doing straight line type stuff like this, it's fun, and we can do some interactive stuff with it, but it's not that interesting, right? But once we start having things that only happen under certain conditions, now we're actually getting some more interest in our program. And we're doing that using code blocks. And code blocks, I'm gonna make a note here. My Python notes. I'm gonna say here, up to this point, all of our code has always run line by line from top to bottom. However, now we're introducing indented code blocks. And code blocks only run under certain conditions. A code block always starts with a line that ends in a colon. And, you know, the code block begins on the following indented line and, you know, ends when, you know, we reach an unindented line. Right? That's how we know a code block. You know, code blocks are indented, basically. So let's go back here and look at our code. Right. So we have this code block here and this here. And unlike these lines up here, which are always going to run, this line right now and this line right now might not run. Right? This will only run if pet's food is equal to pizza. This will only run if pet's food is equal to cocaine. Excuse me, caffeine. Right? So now we have things that only happen conditionally, which is kind of interesting. There's lots of ways to do that, but in this case, we're talking about if. Right? If means only do this code if this statement results in a true Boolean. Right? If this is true, then do it. If not, don't do it. So if we go down here and type in, let's run this code again. We're going to type in, you know, Vencabot. And what kind of animal is Vencabot? He's going to be like a Wolverine, I guess. A boy, in this case. What kind of food do I want to give Vencabot like an apple. Right? Give him an apple. Okay, it says he's at 50 happiness. So what happened here was nothing. A whole lot of nothing happened, right? Because this code did not run. It wasn't pizza. And this code did not run. It wasn't caffeine. So I was left with 50 happiness. Right? There was no math that actually happened there because both these conditions were false. And this code will only run if it's true. Right? Interesting. So what if I want to have something happen if it's not this or that? Well, I can use an else statement, right? Well, let's how am I going to make this work? Let's do it like this, right? I'm going to say here, if it's pizza, then get 20 happiness. If it's anything else, then give me minus happiness, right? I only like pizza. If you give me anything else, I'm going to be sad. Just like in real life. So we have this if statement, right? Pretty obvious how that works. If pet's food is equal to pizza, then I get more happiness. Sweet. But I'm going to say else pet's happiness equals pet's happiness minus 20. Okay? So else is a statement, it's a code block in Python that means if the previous if statement did not come back true, then do this. Right? If I get pizza, then my happiness goes up. Otherwise, it goes down. Right? So else means if this is not true up here, then run this code. Right? If this is true, then run this. If it's not true, then run this. That's what else means in Python. It's very, very, very powerful. Okay, let's run this code here. We're going to have Zanzu. He's a beast. He's a boy. We're going to say, what kind of food do you want to give him? We're going to give him some, macaroni. Okay, he's at 30 happiness. He doesn't like macaroni, right? He only wants pizza. He lost happiness. Let's try to give him some pizza this time. Okay, Zanzu. He's a beast. He's a young god. And what kind of food do you want to give him? I'm going to give him pizza this time. Because now that's 70 happiness, so it went up that time. So if we give him pizza, his happiness goes up. If we give him anything else, it goes down. He only wants pizza. Okay, what if I want to have like 3 possibilities? How about we say here, he really, really, really hates tofu. He really hates tofu. Okay. So if pet's food equals tofu, I have a bug here, guys. I'm going to show you guys a bug real quick. We'll say pet's happiness equals pet's happiness, minus 50. That'll fucking knock it down to 0 happiness. He really, really hates tofu. Right. Let's run this code here. Okay, Zanzu. The beast. He's a good boy. We're gonna give this guy some tofu, right? It was at 0 happiness. He started off at 50, right? Gave him some tofu. Went down to 0 happiness right here. minus 50 if you give him tofu. He really hates that stuff. That sucks. But we have a bug. Right here we're saying, if pet's food is pizza, then give him 20 happiness. If it's tofu, then give him 50 happiness. Otherwise, give him minus 20 happiness. Right? But here's our bug, right? You guys are pretty smart, we already saw this, right? The bug here is that if I give him pizza, he's going to get 20 happiness, right? But then it's going to say here, if it's tofu, do this. Otherwise, minus 20 happiness. If I give him pizza, then he's going to, gain 20 and then lose 20. Right? Because pizza is not tofu. If pet food is tofu, then he loses 50. Else, he loses 20. So our problem here is that we kind of have to do something more complex, right? Okay, well, how about this? We're going to say here, if pet's food is pizza, he gets 20 happiness. Else, if pet's food is tofu, he gets negative 50 happiness. Else, he gets negative 20. All right, so now we have even deeper indenting going on here. All right, so it's a little more complex, guys. I'm saying here, if pet's food is pizza, then he gets 20 happiness. He loves pizza, right? Makes him more happy. Otherwise, if it's not pizza, right? Otherwise, if it's tofu, then he gets minus 50 happiness. Otherwise, else, he gets minus 20 happiness, right? So now we have code blocks within code blocks, right? If it's pizza, then he gets happier. But the else block here has blocks within it, right? This is the whole else block right here, because that's all indented, right? By 4 spaces. That's all inside the else code block. However, the else code block here contains another if-else pair of code blocks. If it's pizza, do this. If it's not pizza, then ask, is it tofu? And if it is, then do this. If it's not tofu, then do that. Right? What's cool about this, though, is that this code will not run. This else will not run if we typed in pizza, because we only get to this code if pizza was already false. Right? So before we had it like this, we had a bug. I'm going to show you guys a bug real quick. It's kind of complex. I'm going to kind of take my time with this. Here's our bug, right? So if I type in pizza for my food, he's going to gain 20 happiness, right? And then he's going to go down here to this line and ask him, is it tofu? Well, no, it's pizza, right? Well, then they're going to lose 20 happiness because it's not tofu. This else means, is it not tofu? Let's run this code and I'll demonstrate for you guys. Zanzu, the beast, good boy. He's going to get pizza. Okay, he's at 50 happiness. He started at 50, right? He should have been at 70. He should have been at 70 right here. But the problem was we got to this line right here. Is it tofu? If it is, minus 50. If it's not tofu, then he loses 20. So the problem is that we ask this question first. And then, regardless of whether this was true or false, right? Even if it was pizza, we still ask, is it tofu? I want to change this so that it only asks if it's tofu if it wasn't pizza. Right? If we already know it's pizza, then why bother asking if it's tofu? We know it's not tofu, it's pizza. We know that already, right? So let's put this all into an else statement, like this. Now, this code only gets run if it's not pizza. Right? We only ask if it's tofu if we know it's not pizza. So if the food is pizza, then add 20 happiness. Otherwise, ask, is the food tofu? If it is, minus 50 happiness. And if it's not tofu either, then finally subtract 20 happiness, right? Now our code's gonna work. Let's demonstrate it real quick. Right? So we got Zanzu. He's a beast. He's a boy. I want to give him pizza. Okay, he's at 70 happiness, right? He went up by 20 from 50. Cool, let's try it again. We're gonna have, K-Rice Jr. He's going to be a monster in my pocket. And he's going to be a boy. And we're gonna give this guy, you know, some tofu. He really hates tofu. 0 happiness. All right, that sucks. We're gonna have, you know, Overlord Steve. And he's a furry. He's a good boy. And we're gonna give this guy, you know, anything aside from pizza and tofu. How about like, you know, a burrito? I'm not sure I spelled that right. Is it spelled like that? No, I think it is like that, right? Like that, like that. I can't spell burrito, guys. But he lost happiness, right? Because he only likes pizza. He always, if you don't give him pizza, he's gonna be sad. And if you give him tofu, he's gonna be really sad, right? So now we have kind of a complex logic tree here. This tree of logic asks many questions, and depending on what the result is, we can get a variety of answers back, right? It asks, you know, is it pizza? If so, do that. If it's tofu, do that, etc., 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 right? Kind of cool. Kind of cool. So we have a very simple game right now. We can actually raise and lower our pet's happiness based on the kind of food we give it. Interesting. Okay, so we still have about an hour left here to work on our very first ever virtual pet. I'm talking pretty fast, as I always do, but I trust you guys are, you know, pretty intelligent, probably more or less keeping up. If not, you can always go back and rewatch the YouTube video or ask questions here in the Twitch chat. But basically, we have our first virtual pet. It asks us for its name, its type, and whether it's a boy or a girl, so we can kind of print off messages for us. And then we can feed it any kind of food we want, and based on the answer we give back, we're going to sort of change our pet's happiness level. Kind of typical for a Tamagotchi or whatever, your virtual pet. It has like a happiness level, right? Awesome. So now it's going to probably want to do some other things aside from eat, right? It'll probably want to play, something like that. So we can always just, you know, keep on messing with the happiness, but why don't we make our game a bit more interesting, right? I'm trying to think of how I can do this while also kind of maintaining this forward momentum with our Python language type stuff, huh? Well, why don't we kind of implement another attribute, right? Let's kind of fix our code here a little bit. Let's actually delete all this code. I think it's kind of a waste to ask for the pet's name and stuff right now. We can worry about that a little more later on. Why don't we just, for now, keep our code simple by having to just have, you know, one basic kind of pet. We're gonna have like a virtual pet, right? We'll just kind of simplify our code by saying, you know, pet's happiness starts off at 50. We'll say pet's hunger level starts off at, you know, starts off at like, we'll put it at 50 as well, right? So you can be happy and you can be hungry, basically, right? We'll say pet's hunger, right? So we have happiness and hunger now, and we can feed him tofu. That'll make him less hungry, but also less happy, right? So let's do that, basically. Let's implement this code here. We're gonna say here, print, you know, what do you want to feed your pet? We can say here, you know, pet's food equals input. We're doing the same tree as last time, basically. We're gonna say here, you know, we'll save some data up here on top. We'll say here, we'll say like pet's favorite food equals, what's a really good food? Like a caramel apple? That shit's like bomb, dude. Pet's hated food equals, like, what's a really, really hateful food aside from tofu and mushrooms? I like olives. I really hate black olives. But then we're gonna say here, you know, it's like, yeah, favorite and most hated food, huh? Okra? That's pretty bad. We'll use okra. So he has these things he likes and things that he hates, right? We're gonna save his food there. We're gonna say here, you know, if pet's food, right, whatever they punched in, is equivalent to the pet's favorite food, then we're gonna say here that you know, pet's happiness went up, you know, by you know, 20. He likes his favorite food, right? We're gonna say here, otherwise, if pet's food is equivalent to his most hated food, pet's hated food, say pet's happiness equals pet's happiness minus 20, minus 40. Say otherwise, if anything else, it's just gonna, you know, be more or less neutral about it. Pet's happiness equals pet's happiness minus, you know, we'll say 10. Right? So basically, he really wanted his favorite food, right? He wanted his favorite food, but, you know, it's whatever. He got whatever. He's not gonna cry about it, but he's a little bit less happy. He's a little bit disappointed. We're going to say here, whatever happened, right? So now we're going to leave the code block. We're back here to being on the far left, so we're out of the code block. We're going to say whatever happened, we're going to make him less hungry. We're going to say here, pets hunger equals pets hunger, minus, we'll say minus, 20. Right? Got less hungry. Cool. So we're going to print off a message here. We're going to say here, print off, we'll say this. We'll say, if pet's happiness is greater than or equal to 50, then we're going to say print off, your pet seems happy. Otherwise, print off, your pet seems sad. Right? So if their happiness is above 50, then they seem happy. Otherwise, they seem sad. Right? So we have this new conditional statement here, right? Greater than or equal to. If pet's happiness, which is an integer, is greater than or equal to 50, then they seem happy. Otherwise, we know it's below 50, they seem sad. Right? We'll actually add some more complexity here too. Why don't we say if their happiness is greater than or equal to 80, your pet seems ecstatic. Right? It's super duper happy, right? We're gonna say here else if pet's happiness is greater than or equal to 50, print your pet seems in high spirits. Right? We're gonna say else, even more complexity, right? If pet's happiness is greater than or equal to 25, print your pet seems kind of down. We're gonna say here otherwise, print your pet seems mad depressed. Your pet's fucking depressed, dude. So it's a little more complex of a logic tree here, right? Look at this logic tree we have here. But it's not that hard to understand, really. We're saying here, if they have happiness higher than, 80, essentially, higher than or equal to 80, then they're super duper happy, right? Otherwise, if it's not, if it's below 80, right? Otherwise, below 80, we say, well, is it, greater than or equal to 50? If so, then print off they're in high spirits. It's still, above 50. They're still pretty happy. If it's not above 50, well, then ask, well, is it greater than or equal to 25? If so, they're kind of down. Otherwise, they're depressed, right? We know they're below 25 at that point, or they're below 25, so they're kind of depressed at that point. All right, interesting. Okay, but we have kind of a problem. Let's run the code. Let's run the code right now. Should be fine. Run it. I want to feed him, pizza. I bet him kind of down. He ate the pizza. He's not that happy about it, right? So let's print that off. We're gonna say here, we'll say print, your pet eats the plus, the food you gave it, pet's food. Right. Let's run the code again here. Just so we have some more stuff for the user to read. Make it a bit more interesting for the player. I want to feed him pizza. Okay, your pet eats the pizza. Your pet seems kind of down. Right, so we ate the pizza. He had 50 happiness at first, right? He had 50 happiness. That's great. Ate the pizza. He lost 10 happiness, right? Because if he eats his favorite food, which is caramel apples, he gets extra happy. If he eats his hated food, he goes down by 40. But if he eats a food that's just kind of whatever, then he loses 10. So he's at 40 right now, right? He lost 10. If he's at 40, he's not above 50, right? He's not above 80. So that does not get triggered. However, because that didn't get triggered, the else statement gets triggered, right? So all this happens right here. It says here, well, is he higher than 50? Well, no. So this happens then, right? Is he greater than 25? Well, yes, he is. So this happened. And because he was, this was true right here, the else one did not happen, right? So this one here didn't happen because it was, it was below 80. And then this one didn't happen because it was below 50. then this one did happen because it was above 25, right? That's why it says your pet was kind of down. However, if I were to give him some okra, he's going to lose 40 happiness. He's going to be mad depressed, right? Let's try that. Feed him okra. Yeah, he's mad depressed, right? Because he lost 40 happiness just now. So we actually have a kind of interesting game right now, right? The game actually has some flexibility to it now. You know, we have this value, a happiness value. We have a variety of food to feed the pet. And then it kind of gets happier or less happy as time goes on. However, we have a problem here. We have a limitation of our code. Let's say I want to feed him more than once. You know, that's more interesting that way, right? Kind of, you know, can get less hungry, or he can get more happy, whatever. So I'm going to copy this code. All this code. What do you want to feed your pet, right? Copy all this. And then I'm going to paste it down here. It's going to all happen again. Okay, so let's review how this works now. We're kind of getting some extra complexity here. So before we go too fast, let's go and review what's happening here. So at the start of our program, we define a few values. We talked before about how every program is data and operations, right? We're making data right here. We're defining some data. Favorite food is caramel apple. Hated food is okra. Happiness starts at 50, and pet's hunger starts at 50. Right, we define all that data up there to use it later in our code. Then we say here, you know, we ask a question. What do you want to feed your pet? Then we get some input back and save that, right? Awesome. Then we say here some, you know, a logic tree. Right? We have a logic tree here. It says here that if it's their favorite food, then they get 20 happiness. Otherwise, if it's their hated food, they lose 40. Otherwise, they lose 10. Right? They want to have their favorite food. And if they get their hated food, they really get sad. We print off some data for the user to read. Your pet eats the pet's food. Right? Good. Then their hunger goes down. We haven't used that yet. I'll probably just delete that, to be honest. I haven't used that pet's hunger meter yet. Do the same thing down here. I copy pasted it, right? We're going to get rid of this hunger meter for now. Come back very soon, though. Okay, so now we're going to say here, you know, they ate the food. Now we do another logic tree, right? Depending on the pet's happiness. If their happiness is really high, they seem ecstatic. If it's kind of high, they seem in high spirits. If it's kind of low, they seem kind of down. And if it's really low, they seem mad depressed, right? A little logic tree here to print off a different message based on how happy the pet is or isn't, right? And then we do the whole thing again. We copy pasted the code, right? And as we know, Python code executes from top to bottom. So although we already did this before, we can just put the code right back down here again and do it all again, right? What do you want to feed your pet? We save the pet's food value again from the input, and we, you know, change their happiness around, and so on and so forth. Right? It just happens again. Let's try this. Just copy pasted the code. So I'm going to give him, you know, what do you want to give him first? We'll give him a caramel apple first, right? Caramel apple. It was in high spirits, right? He gained 20 happiness from that. So he started off at 50. We gave him a caramel apple, so now he's at 70. So is he above or equal to 80? Well, no. So this didn't get triggered. He didn't say he was ecstatic, right? That didn't get triggered. However, this does get triggered, right? He is greater than or equal to 50. He's at 70. So he's in high spirits. Because now he's at 70, right? It says here, what do you want to feed your pet? So we're actually doing this whole thing again. So we copy and pasted the code, right? So when we got down to here, now it says here, what do you want to feed your pet? Again, I want to feed him another caramel apple. Fuck it. Caramel apple. Well, now he's ecstatic. Right, now he's ecstatic. We fed him a caramel apple first and rose it from 50 to 70, and then we went from 70 to 90. So now he's actually above 80. So now he's ecstatic. Awesome. Good for him. Good boy. He deserved it. He deserved it. Okay, so now it happens twice, right? That makes sense. But here's our problem. Every time we want to do it again, we have to copy and paste the code. I'll do it again, too. I'll do it 3 times. Grab all that, copy it, go down here, paste it. We'll do it 4 times. Who cares? All right, so we've got a lot of lines of code now. Right? We have a lot of lines of code now. That's happening 4 times. Okay, let's just see if it works. So I'm going to feed him, we'll give him a caramel apple first. Now he's in high spirits. We'll give him another caramel apple. Now he's ecstatic. I want to give him, now he's at 90, right? I'm going to give him some okra. He's going to be at 40. Oh, no. Now he's at 50 again. Right? Because he was at 90, and then we subtracted 40. He's at 50. So now he's in high spirits. I'm going to some more okra. I'm going to be mad depressed. Right? And the game ends. So we did it 4 times, and the game ended. All right. Well, that's cool and everything. But our problem is that if we want this game to go on for a very long time, we're going to have like 10 billion lines of code. Right? Because we have to copy paste over and over again. Let's just delete all this stuff. All the ones after the first time. Right? Let's feed them once again. Okay. So, how do we make this keep happening over and over and over again? Because I want to feed him, indefinitely. As much as I want. He's a good boy. He deserves lots of food. Well, we have to use a new kind of code block. We learned about if. Right? We learned about else. Right? We did some fruity loops. That's what Kenny said. We need to loop over this code somehow. Because we're doing it over and over and over again, right? We know about if, we know about else as our 2 kind of code blocks. There's another kind of code block, right? We learned before about code blocks that it's code that only runs under a certain circumstance. And it's code that doesn't always run top to bottom, like this code does up here. This is not in a code block, right? Well, how about we do a new kind called a while? While pet's hunger is greater than 0. No, Zanzu. Yeah, that's so cruel, dude. While his hunger is greater than 0, indent this new code in the code block, right? To make it part of the while code block, it has to be indented by 4 more spaces. I'm just indenting every line inside the code block by 4 more spaces. There. Okay, so now we have, code blocks within code blocks within code blocks. Right? For a beginner, kind of intimidating a little bit. But you guys are pretty smart too. You guys got it all figured out, I think. Anyway, we're saying here, all this code, because all indented, right? By four extra spaces. All that code only runs if pet's hunger is greater than 0, kind of like if. Right? Kind of like if. However, while has an extra property to it, right? While, when it hits the bottom of the code block, down here, it says, well, is it still greater than 0? And if so, it runs it again. So while is kind of like if, but it repeats until this statement is no longer true. So we're going to say here, at the end of every time, we're going to say here, pet's hunger equals pet's hunger minus, 20. Right? So now we're saying here that, we ask what to want to be fed. This should go down here too, actually. It should be a part of the loop. I fucked that up. There we go. Right, just like that. So now we're saying here, we define our variables, we define our data, right? The favorite food, the most hated food, the happiness, and the hunger. All starts, that starts at 50. Then we're saying here, as long as the pet is hungry, ask him, what do you want to feed him? Save it. Do we do the tests, right? Is it their favorite food or not? Do they eat the food? We say if they're ecstatic or not, right? And then we reduce their hunger by some amount. It starts off at 50, right? So it's going to be 30 now. Then we go back to the top of the while statement, right? Of the while block. And it asks again, is the pet's hunger greater than 0? Well, it starts at 50, right? So that means it's going to be 30 now. So yeah, it's still greater than 0. It's going to do it again, right? We're going to ask, what do you want to feed it? And then it's going to be knocked down by 20 again. It's going to be at 10 now, right? It was at 50, then at 30. Now it's at 10, pet's hunger. Well, is it greater than 0? Well, yeah, it is. So it's going to go right back to the top again and feed him one more time, right? And when this ends, it's going to be at negative 10, right? It's going to start off at 10 pet's hunger and end at negative 10 pet's hunger because of this statement right here. Is negative 10 greater than 0? No, that's actually less than 0, right? So now we can finally end the while loop. And say down here, print off, your pet is full. This line is not indented by 4 spaces, right? There's no indent there. So this only happens once the while block is over. This is the whole while block, right? Every line inside of it is indented by at least 4 spaces. right? This is the if block. It's indented by, 8 spaces because, the if itself was at 4 spaces. It has to get 4 more spaces in, right? So this if block is inside of this while block. And this if block is inside of this else block, which is inside of this while block. See, the deeper we get in, the more indents we get, right? By 4 every time. So the while statement is all, and the while block is all these lines, because they're all indented by at least 4, right? But once it finally ends, once this no longer becomes true, then we drop down out of the while block finally to this print statement. Your pet is full. Okay, cool. So now we have a real game, right? We've been doing this for about an hour and a half now, a little bit more than an hour and a half. And we have our first real game. This game will actually run until it's completed. It has a condition, it has a goal for us to reach, and it has a bunch of variables changing depending on our input. It's not that many lines long. You can see it all on one screen here in Notepad, right? Everybody has Notepad on the computers, right? Let's run this code. It's a full game now. I'm gonna feed him okra, like Zanzu recommended, right? Okay, he's mad depressed. Well, that's sad. Let's give him some of his favorite food, a caramel apple. Okay, he seems kind of down now. I'm going to give him another caramel apple to cheer him up. He's in high spirits, and my pet is now full. The game ends. Right? We fed him some okra. He got really depressed, but he was still hungry. So we fed him an apple and got a little bit less depressed. We fed him one more apple. He's still hungry, right? So we got in high spirits. He wasn't hungry anymore. Now he's full. The game is over. Right? So our goal there was to kind of, fill our pet's happiness meter while also, feed it till it's full. Right? Feed it till it's full while also kind of controlling its happiness using the kind of food we chose. That's kind of fucking sick, right? We have our first game. Yes, here goes. He's going to be here for the Smash stream today. Our final Smash stream. I'm looking forward to it. After that's going to be some Minecraft. Minecraft! Okay, so, awesome. We have a working game, right? I think we did some blank lines. Look at all these, how kind of compressed this text is here. Well, we add some blank lines for the user to make it a little easier to read, right? So let's see here. Before the pet eats the okra, let's add a blank line. And likewise, how about after he eats the okra, we do a blank line? Okay. And then we're going to say here, well, no, let's just leave it like this. We'll put a blank line after it says the pet's kind of down. How about that? Right here. Whatever his statement is, whatever his state is, his happiness state, we're going to make a blank line there. Now it should be a little bit easier to read, right? Let's see. I want to feed my pet pizza. Now he seems kind of down. He doesn't like pizza anymore. He likes caramel apples. Let's try that. Caramel apple. Okay, now he's in high spirits. I'm going to give him another caramel apple. Now he's super ecstatic, but he's full now. So the game is over. Right, so it's kind of, kind of like a little game we have here. Kind of neato kino. So, why don't we review real quick what we used to make this game? Right, let's go here to our notes. I'm going to delete all these notes. Fuck them. You guys already read them. And then we're going to talk about what makes our game work. Look for this YouTube sub, Bullish. Always a pleasure to have more YouTube subs. We have more Intro to Python on YouTube as well, guys. Basically, Intro to Python is a seasonal show. It goes in 6-episode seasons, where over 6 episodes, we kind of gradually build on more complex ideas for Python. This is our first episode of this season, so it's very simple today. Next Friday is going to be a little more involved. We're going to kind of build on this game, make it better and better and better. Hey, Venka, you didn't say the tournament was going to be 2v2. Feels bad, man. Unless I clone myself. Oh, man. You got to find a partner, Zanzu. I'll fly out there and I'll partner with you. We'll win for sure. Okay, so here's our notes, right? So, today we made our first game in Python. And it's kind of cool. Right? It's kind of cool, actually. What's cool about it is that it's interactive. And the choices we make have consequences within the game. As we repeatedly choose food types to feed to our pet, we influence how happy it is and how hungry it is. Right? Because our pet is only so hungry, it can only eat so many times. We feed it until it's full, and as we feed it, we get an update on approximately how happy it is. To accomplish, writing this simple game, we needed to know a few operations in Python, including, printing data to the screen using the print function, getting data from the user using the input function, doing math on integers using the plus and minus operators, assigning names to data using the equals operator. We also had to do an operation such as comparing strings to each other using the equals operator, right? Are they the same string or not? Comparing integers to each other using the greater than or equal to operator. Right? So we learned a lot today, guys. We learned a lot today. What else are we missing here? Let's go look at our virtual pet. Did we miss any other operations we did here? We add strings together, right? We do that a lot. Kind of cool. Awesome. So we're going to add that to our list of things we learned today. We also add strings together. We'll combine strings using the plus operator for strings. Kind of cool. What's up, Chuck? Bullish here. I appreciate your enthusiasm. Great pace and great pace and instructions. Well, I could pace my speech as well. I'm glad you're enjoying it, Chuck. Thank you for the YouTube sub. Again, if you guys want to watch more Intro to Python, you can't wait till next Friday. Check out YouTube, youtube.com/Vencabot Archive. I've got 3 other seasons on there. On the first season, we do a Pokemon game start to finish. We learn about how to make a Pokemon battle, basically. And then the other season, we learn about how to make an adventure game like Zork, text-based adventure game. And then our last season, season 3, was a JRPG, kind of like Dragon Warrior or Final Fantasy, kind of. And this time we're doing a virtual pet. They're all very simple projects for total beginners. Episode 1 of each season is like, what is a program, basically. And episode 6 is like, some kind of advanced concepts. We have a fully working game at that point. But even today, in an hour and a half, we have a fully working game. It's kind of cool. Can't just partner with the strongest guy there and get carried to first place. Good idea. That's what I would do. Okay, so we learned about different kinds of operations, right? Cool. We also learned about, different types of data within Python, right? Strings, or str, are textual data, right? Typically for showing someone. And then we have also integers, or ints, are numerical data for doing math, behind the scenes. If we know that much. Pretty straightforward. Oops. Cool beans. We learned a lot today, guys. We learned a lot today. We also learned about various code blocks, right? Finally, we learned about code blocks, which are chunks of code that only run under certain circumstances and may run in a more convoluted way than just simply top to bottom. Right? The if an if block, if blocks, we'll say, only run if their condition is true, right? The Boolean. We'll say here that else blocks only run if the attached if block is false. Right? We'll say if it doesn't run, right? It doesn't run. Right? So if the if block condition came back false, then the else block runs. And we learned about while. Right? While blocks run from top to bottom repeatedly until their condition is no longer true, right? Boolean, right? So by using these operations here, and these data types here, and these code blocks here, if, else, and while, we made a fully working virtual pet game. I mean, it's not that interesting yet, but it's kind of interesting, right, for a beginner. Not too shabby. Right? Kind of, it's not that many lines, but it gets the job done. Right? Let's go review, make sure we got everything here that we learned today, right? Okay, we got some values being updated here, kind of cool, some mathematics. All right, awesome. Got some tests here, if statements and stuff, logic, badass. Got a while loop that runs over and over again until it's, our pet's full. That's cool. Awesome. Let's go to our notes one more time and just, to review, right? We're going to say here, to review how our game works. We start off by defining, we'll say by naming, right? By naming a bunch of values so that we can use those values later in our code, right? These values, these names include, pet's favorite food, pet's hated food, pet's happiness, and pet's hunger. Yeah, come on by, Ein. In fact, come on back here probably in like 20 minutes or so. We'll probably leave the house right about now, actually. I'm probably ending the stream here. It's time for Smesh, dude. It's time for Smesh. Okay, so here we are. So we have these four values, right? So be it. The first two of these named values are strings. Hey, what's up, Dix? Dude, we're making a virtual pet, dude. Having a lot of fun. Our pet's already working pretty well for beginners. And the second two of these names, represent integers. Kind of lower to the bottom of the screen here. I'm going to get some blank lines here. Don't want to be all the way down there. Cool beans. So, we have 4 values, right, that we define early on. The first 2 are strings, the favorite food types, right, the food types. And the other 2 are integers, numbers we can do math on, happiness and the hunger. Right, excellent. Let's go here to our notes. So we're going to say here, after we define, or after we name our values, we enter a while block, which runs repeatedly until the pet is full. We're going to say here, pet's hunger becomes less than, 50, or less than 0, right? Or less than 1, I guess, right? At that point, the pet is full. So we're going to say here, inside the while block, we feed our pet, or we choose what to feed our pet. And we change the pet's happiness based on what kind of food the player chose. Right? Whether it be their favorite food, their most hated food, or some other kind of food. After the pet eats, we report to the player, approximately how happy the pet is by running through a logic tree of if and else statements. You know, let's go look at that real quick. It's a virtual pet, Dick. It's not a real pet. This pet can't die or anything. It can become unhappy. That's about it right now. We've already made it pretty unhappy previously. It can get pretty depressed. Anyway, so down here, right, we have this if tree, this logical tree that kind of prints off different messages based on, you know, whether or not certain conditions are true. If the pet is happiness is above 80, right, or equal to 80, then it's ecstatic, right? But if it's, you know, otherwise, if it's, you know, above or equal to 50, it's in high spirits. Otherwise, if it's above or, you know, equal to 25, it's kind of down. And then finally, if it's none of the above, it's pretty low, right? That would mean that it's mad depressed. Right. I'll make you depressed, Sticks. You want to be fucking depressed, motherfucker? Talk shit in my chat? Let's do it. We're going to say, we're going to feed our pet Dix. We're going to call this Dix for now. We're going to feed him some okra. He hates okra. Give him some more okra. Even more okra. There you go. You're full and you're depressed, Dix. So shut up. So I can't actually, let's make him Dix, right? Let's say here, we'll say, print off, what is your pet's name? I'm so mad at Dix right now. Pet's name equals input. I'm going to say here, what do you want to feed Dix? Right. What do you want to feed plus pet's name plus question mark? Okay. We're going to say here, pet's name plus, eats the food. Okay. We're going to say here, pet's name seems ecstatic, or pet's name seems in high spirits. Right? That's a little more interactive. Right? Pet's name seems kind of down. I say here, kind of like a voodoo doll, right? That's how I feel right now. Get my revenge on Dix. Pet's name seems, mad depressed. There you go. I'm gonna say here, pet's name is full. There. That's a little more interactive. Sweet. Save it. Run it. Okay. Pet's name is Dix. I'm gonna feed him okra. 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 There. Now you're full and you're depressed. Yeah, Steve was a furry. What's up, Nordis Power? Let's see here. Gross, keeps Zanzu away from your perversions, huh? Steve's not our or anything. I'm not associated with that Pillock. What the hell's a Pillock? Got Nordis Power. He can be his own little freak. I think we're all our own little freaks. Okay. Let's make a blank line here for the pet's name. Like this. It means dumbass, dumbass. Pillock means dumbass? Huh, that's weird. Maybe it's a Canadian word, huh? Only in the Canadian language. Okay, so let's go back here to our notes. Our game works pretty well so far. Excuse me, I'm under the notes. I can't read. Okay, so after the pet eats, we report approximately how happy it is. Awesome. And then, every time it eats, its hunger value goes down. Right? Because the hunger will eventually be lower than 1, will drop out of the wow block at that point, and the game will be over. I think the British thing, huh? So only people fantasize of getting fucked by the Queen say it over here. I think Canadians speak that way sometimes, right? I had a friend in Canada who used to say brill. I guess that's like an English thing. It's brill. Gotta bring that back, kind of cool, actually. Okay, so here's our virtual pet. Pretty simple little first game we wrote here today. Kind of nice. Let's go play it one more time, then call it a night. I guess come back on next Friday and make it more interesting. We'll have some games to play next Friday and probably train the pet at some point. Have it do cool stuff. But right now we can just feed it, basically. Thanks for the follow, mtor811. Again, every Friday here we do Intro to Python from around 6-ish to around 9-ish Eastern time. And right now it is 8:45. We're going to call it an early night here and go play some Smash Brothers, I think. That's a variety stream here, guys. We play a variety of games here, some fighting games, some RPGs, some all kinds of whatever we want. Retro games, modern games. But we also do some programming and some game design here as well. If you guys come back on Monday and see us playing some Third Strike, Street Fighter 3, don't panic. every Friday here, still Intro to Python. Chuck says, so does the name input only work within the while loop? No, it doesn't actually, because we save the name right here. It'll work anywhere. Right? So we asked the player here what they want to name their pet. Right? And it's saved right here. So because Python code executed from top to bottom, it starts here and executes all this code. Boom, 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 boom. Then it runs this code repeatedly over and over again. Right? We can use pet's name anywhere after we defined it. We defined it right here, right? So we could use it, down here or down here. This is actually outside of the loop right here. Pet's name is full. Right? As long as you've defined it already, you can use that name. You can use that value, I should say. We defined the pet's name pretty early on. If we try to use it right here, right? If we try to say here, for instance, what is Dix's name? Right? What is plus pet's name plus, what's David's name? We're gonna have an error. Right? Let's actually run this and show you what I mean by that. This is here. Pet's name is not defined. Right? It's a name error. Pet's name is not defined. That's because we're trying to use pet's name before we defined it right here. Right? That's going to be a problem. So we're going to say here, what is your pet's name? Right? And we can use it, once we've defined it here, we can use it anywhere we want, basically. It's pretty free that way. Come on, mTOR. Canadians can be cool too. I mean, they're not, completely human, but they're more or less human. It works anyway. You can mistake one for a human, let's put it that way. Mad says, thanks for the tutorials, Venka. Useful stuff. Gonna learn Python, so this all helps. Got a jet. May your smash be smashed. Have a good night, Matt Appleby. Thanks for hanging out and helping out, man. All you guys in the chat that are asking questions and stuff, make the stream a lot more fun for me here. Your pet is a headhunter. We could make it a headhunter in the next game, huh? Like a bounty hunter. I am the dog. Of course, Chuck Powell. If you have any questions, you can go to our Discord server at vencabot.com. And ask questions there all week long. I only stream Intro to Python on Fridays, guys, but on Discord I'll answer questions all week long. Whatever makes you happy. If you have trying to learn Python, it can be a struggle to learn alone. So I'm kind of here to help you guys out and empower you guys to try some new stuff and write your own programs. I find it to be very relaxing and otherwise fulfilling, so I kind of want to share that with people. Okay, guys, we have our first working game. It's going to go on GitHub, guys. We'll actually upload that right now. Why don't we? Let's go to github.com. /Vencabot. You can go check out previous Intro to Python episodes here, Intro to Python. We also have our Total Beginner projects. Here we have our adventure example, which is like a Zork game. Gonna read all about that. Check out some code, some example code. And we also have a JRPG, which is like kind of like Final Fantasy or Dragon Warrior, Dragon Quest. We have our Pokemon example, which is our first season. This is a Pokemon game we made in Python as beginners. And season 4, which was today was our first episode of that. We're going to make a new file here and call this like a virtual pet. All right. Make a new folder here. More human indeed. Okay, let's create a new file. Let's upload a file here. I'm going to upload, desktop. Intro to Python Season 4, and our virtual pet Day 1, and our notes, why not? The notes are kind of cool. Okay, cool. Could you upload your additional notes? Exactly, yes. I definitely will. One more time, guys, on our YouTube channel, we have more Intro to Python stuff. If you want to watch other seasons from start to finish, and they always start off being really, really simple, and then later on they get more complex and more involved, and by our Day 6, our last episode, we have a really nice game usually. Let's go here to our beginner projects, go to our virtual pet, and rename this Python notes to like Day 1 notes to be more clear for the future. Right? Edit this. We're gonna call this one like Day 1 notes. Okay, cool beanzos. Save it. That'll be at github.com/Vencabot/Intro to Python /beginner projects virtual pet, etc. You guys get the idea. I'm going to over a short break, guys. Come right back. Some Smash Brothers. As usual, guys, want to keep the channel online. Check my Patreon page at patreon.com/Vencabot. Even $1 is a huge help, guys. I stream for 40 hours a week, every week. And when the stream ends, I work on the stream all night long. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of fun, though, too. But I said even $1 helps me buy gas and groceries and go to events and stuff. Also, you can help for free by following on Twitch. Tell your friends we're here. Save clips. Tell your friends. I think I already said that, right? You can also check out YouTube at youtube.com/Vencabot Archive. Lots of gameplay, more than 1,000 videos, many of which are are Python related and tutorial related. It's kind of cool. I'm very proud of that. I'm going to go a very short break, come right back with some Smash Bros. I will see you guys very shortly. No use in fighting Dix. He's stronger than all of you combined. Yeah, Dix is a very powerful being. He has ascended.
Yes, pleasure by ladders.
Best at being a blowhard. I think if I follow mtor811 again, those follows are kind of helpful. It's always helpful having more guys come back into the following week to kind of follow up on the project, right? Typically kind of lose guys as time goes on. I know not a lot of guys want to come back repeatedly, you know, kind of put it into their schedule. But next week, guys, we're going to make our game even more interesting. Add some new concepts, learn some new kinds of code blocks, learn some new data types that'll make our game a little bit more interactive, a little bit more exciting, a little more dynamic. Today we used some very, very, very basic concepts to make our first ever game. But trust me, guys, as we are more comfortable with Python and learn some more stuff, we're going to make this game really cool. Not sure quite yet where we're going to go with this. Maybe we're going to have the player probably have to buy the food somehow and earn the money somehow.
Okay.
Maybe by, you know, bringing the pet to, like, shows and stuff. Can you imagine how cool that would be? Have it do tricks and stuff to get money. Then we can use that money to buy it food. Maybe certain kinds of food will, you know, give it different properties. Make its fur prettier or whatever. Better for shows. I'm sorry, Zanzu. I know it's a pretty scary clip. Thank you, Chuck, for the support on Patreon, dude. So even $1 is a huge, huge help. So it seems like not that much at first, but man, it really adds up. Helps me, you know, feel more comfortable going out there and, you know, buying what I need to get by.
Ooh, ooh, wow.
Here goes this asserting in my chat that KOF14 is good. How good could it possibly be? One more time to be clear, guys. Every Friday from around 6 to around 9 p.m. Eastern is Intro to Python. Right now it is 8:53. We're ending this stream, but we're going to move on to some gameplay. We are a variety stream here. We play all kinds of cool games and do other kind of creative stuff. We have a schedule below the stream if I don't want to read that down there. And every Friday, 6 to 9, Intro to Python. Come back next week for more Python coding. If you see me playing some video games, don't get discouraged. We do programming here every week. Likewise, if you're here for the games, don't get discouraged if you see me doing some goofy notepad programming. There's always more games to play. Q always rates games based on the waifu content.